Are you ready, kids?
Aye, Captain.
Very little enthusiasm, but okay. Alright, what we're going to do is, so we're going to create the GUI of the memo for this. So we're going to start by creating the frame. I'm just going to call it GUI because we're constructing it here. Now, one of the first things you're going to do, on the back end of your frame, when you create the frame, you'll notice there that it's a general class construction. The only difference is that it actually extends your JFrame. So it comes up and it's got a design panel, but the source code is the same as any of our other classes. Now, what you'll see when you go further down, there's a method that says public static void main, and remember that's where the program will start from. And when the program starts, it creates a new, remember this creates a new object in RAM, right?
Yeah.
And it then runs a method set visible to be true.
Yes.
So it actually calls this default constructor, and any fields that we have here will exist outside of it. So what you would generally do is you would always make instances of your games or of your classes. So in this case, we're going to create and defaultly we generally make our attributes and our fields private, and we're going to create for game G1 and G2, meaning game 1 and game 2. You guys happy with that? And then for rating, I'm going to create R1. This should be with a capital R. And private. My bad. So we've declared 4 objects. We've declared G1, G2, R1, and R2 of the class, game, and of rating. We now need to initialize these objects. To initialize them, I go into my default constructor, and then G1 I would initialize. If I go in new, I have multiple different objects. Options. I have my default constructor, my parameterized constructor, and my fully parameterized constructor. Do you guys get this?
Yeah.
If I use my default constructor, I would then have to use my setter to set the cost. I don't have a set title, so let me just say the title. Give me a game.
Mortal Kombat.
No.
Now.
Now,
Anyone though.
Sounds okay.
now,
I was joking.
now on from there. So if you used if you use your non-fully parameterized constructor, okay, so you would initialize your other ones. Give me another game.
Battlefield 1.
For honor.
Yeah, for Honor. Honor's better game, so yeah.
Okay, now for my ratings, I'm not going to use the default constructors. It's just easy to initialize them with the fully parameterized one. Now, here's one thing that I wanted to notice. So what rating are we going to give Mortal Kombat?
6.
Oh,
5 out of 7. 9 out of 11.
13 out of 17.
Now, I only made a ratings for one game, so I could potentially add a couple more ratings if I wanted to, 3 and R4, and then I could rate the second game as well, using similar stuff. So I mean, what I mean is they will generally be out of the same. Okay, so now, what you'll notice is that this here in my default constructor, I've initialized my games and my ratings. I've got 4 ratings and I've got 2 games. Okay. Now, one thing that will be leading on to our next stuff that we will learn next term predominantly, because I'll be doing theory next week. And you are right, I should make the theory. We'll do so. We'll start the theory next week. Okay. And we'll have the whole of next week. Then we'll start the test on the following week. Now, in our user interface now, we've got the basis. Our items have been declared and initialized. But now we need to create it, so we want to display it and we want to do different items with it. So, for example, I am going to do a different display than what we've done before. Generally speaking, I can go and I can say, okay, I want to display it in a text area, right? And I could display all of them in a text area.
Yeah.
You guys happy with this?
100%.
Now, what if I wanted to display it in a list?
Well, that'd be a problem. Then you just say this and No, down,
To the left.
no.
Confused. How do you stop? How do you prevent something from changing in size when you change the resolution?
Okay, basically, in this panels here, I'm going to be adding a list box. So when I go list, and you'll see here, I set the layout of the frame to be border layout. If it's in a central panel, let me just delete this one here quickly. If it is, you'll see when I move it, I can choose different locations for it to be. Here, it means it's going to change sizes when you minimize and maximize. Here, it means it will be on the top. It will never change sizes. It will just be on the top of the panel. Here, it will not change sizes. It will just be on the right. Here, bottom, left. So if it's in the center, it will change sizes. If it's on the bottom, right, or top, it will not change sizes. That's how the border layout works. So I'm going to want this, put this one here, yes.
So you can change the width of those boxes that don't change size.
Yes. Now, on from there, I'm going to add a panel to the north, and then I'm going to add my text area to the central. Now, on this, I can choose my, if I go into this panel,
Wait, so why do you do the north?
I can change the size of this so that on my frame, you see, this becomes a bit tricky, and I don't like it for this, but there's an area where you can actually specify the size that this is going to be. Let me just quickly look at it. On this, I am not going to use this list. I'm going to use a AWT list, and I'll explain the reasons why later. Right now, just because I don't want to teach you a certain concept yet.
I don't teach me that.
So I'm going to teach you that afterwards. But now on this list, you'll see that there's a minimum size there, so I can change the width there and say I want the minimum size to be, let's say 200. Did that change anything?
No, that's
That sucks.
take that one to us as well.
Okay.
Change.
It might be under yeah. I'm failing in this. Alright, now what I want to do, we're going to add the buttons now quickly and then I'll go into it. So I want a button to say edit text, display all ratings, and then I'm going to create another button that will say do you guys follow?
Yeah.
Now, there's another layout that I want to show you here. That's a grid layout. On the grid layouts, it'll just split them accordingly. You can specify how many columns versus rows you want. So, for example, I could say 1 column, 2 rows, and then I'll put it like that. Do you guys get that? So you can specify on your grid layout. So you work with layouts within your objects. Now, realize all of this here, Rico, is stuff that previously, before your RAD environments came out, you would have to code. Now, if you go to your source, you'll see down here, it automatically generates the code for you. It's done all this for you. You don't need to worry about that. You can just drag and drop and put it there. But you can also technically code this as well. You could just directly code like they've coded there, and it would work the same. Now,
Yeah, but like we'll mess up.
most likely. But actually, no.
Yeah.
And sometimes it actually is easier to code than it is to put this stuff in here. Like when I studied, I did not drag and drop. I did coding the GUI. And
Try hard.
I thought you said you don't
but you often do your GUI section for your projects and stuff. I'm talking about more. Your projects wasn't there, but your exams were on. Anyway, not the point. Alright, so now when I click on display all ratings, I want it to display all ratings. When I click display all games, I want to display all games. So remember what I told you, generally speaking, when you right click events, action performed, this method here would be called when the user clicks on that button. But I don't want you guys to code in there. I want you to decode elsewhere. Now, what was this button? This was that I click on the games, or was it ratings? Display ratings. So you don't code in there. You create a method outside of there, public void display ratings, and inside that method you would display the ratings. And what you would do is, because you've got to refer to this in code, you'll change the name. So I'm just going to call it to just text display, and I'm going to call this a change variable name lst now display ratings is now, if I said txt display dot set text to be G1, sorry, R1, quick question. Why, when I say R1 or R2, what am I referring to?
You're rating 2.
Yes, but that instance of that object.
The rating.
But what method does it call?
Int.
ToString, because it's combining with another string, which means that it will automatically refer to the ToString method. So now, when I run this program, it will open up a screen that looks like this. Do you guys check it?
Yo.
Now, if I click on display all ratings, it will display all ratings in the format that I set up.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, unfortunately, we ran out of time. But the next part, this is your main part of your GUI. The next part I'll go through tomorrow.